Well, thank you everybody for having me here. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak before your group. It's a real honor. What I'm going to do is try to go over how to navigate around Obamacare. It's coming, there's delays, but I think we're all anticipating that in some form or fashion it's going to come through. And let's see if I could do this. Oh, that's cool. And as physicians and health professionals, we still must strive to provide top quality care to our patients as we sail around all the Obamacare obstacles. The question is how to do that and remain profitable, something the government tends to forget a little too often. This segment will give you some alternatives with specifics so you could do just that. How will Obamacare affect us and our practices? We know that we're going to have lower fees paid by the insurance companies as they try to match the Medicare fees. $716 billion was taken out of Medicare over the next 10 years. And all of that has been taken directly from the fees paid to doctors and our hospitals. We will need to see more patients to make the same dollars. And already the exchanges, or the best part of the exchanges, has been delayed for a year. It was supposed to be a marketplace with 7 to 10 choices in it, and that was supposed to start October 2013, and now that's been delayed a year, and for the first year, there'll only be one choice in those marketplaces, which isn't that much of a marketplace. They also totally eliminated the long-term care as part of Obamacare because the numbers just didn't work. And I think you all know that in July, they postponed the employer mandate for 1 full year. And I predicted that back in January. And they're going to, in my opinion, delay the personal mandate for a year. So what this does is it's going to create a huge amount of patient confusion. And unfortunately, when the patients are confused and they expect everything to be covered, sort of like the free Obama phones when he was first elected and everybody said they didn't have to pay their mortgage anymore. Well, now they don't have to pay their doctors anymore under the programs. But when they don't understand it, and when that happens, it's our fault, or our staff's fault. So it's going to have to be explained to them. There's going to be more paperwork, so our staff is either more overworked than they already are, or we're going to have to hire more staff. And there's penalties that are put in place, and those are starting on time, unfortunately. And those penalties are if a patient is readmitted to the hospital, and the penalties are huge. If a patient is readmitted for the same thing, the penalties range between 50% and 90%. And right now, it's just for the hospitals. But I don't think any of us believe that the hospitals could afford to take those penalties by themselves. So it will filter down to us and our offices. But there are some alternatives, and that's what I'm going to try to go over in this segment with specifics and then questions at the end for other ways to handle it. One alternative is concierge doctors. The concierge doctors that I'm familiar with in Atlanta and some in Texas, but I know they're all around the country, only take about 600 patients. Some are couples, some are families, a lot of single business people. They charge an upfront fee of about $3,000. They charge, per individual. It's about $5,500 for a couple and about $7,000 or more for a family. So obviously they end up with a lot of single business people, lots of couples, and a few families. But if you look at the numbers, that's 600 times $5,000, which is $3 million. That covers a lot of overhead. The patients have virtually no waits for an appointment or in the office. You're able to spend as much time as you need with a patient, a half hour to an hour. The one that we used in Atlanta, on the first visit, I was there for over 2 hours with them. The patients are able to call or email and get a detailed answer. You know, the times are set for them. In general, they take no Medicaid, sorry, but they do take Medicare as long as the people are willing to pay the upfront fee. You're able to give great care. The patients who could afford it love it. And there's less stress, less patients, less paperwork, and excellent income. This is a trend that is spreading across the country. How many of you have seen the show where the doctor is the concierge doctor, and the show's called Royal Pains in the Hamptons? I mean, he seems to have a pretty good life on the show. But that's only one type. There are some other concierge-type hybrids that are coming. And afterwards, if anybody wants to know, I could give you the details. Because it was the study that I saw was done in Kansas City. They charge a monthly fee. And they take about $10 per child per month, $50 per adult, and $100 per senior. Well, they average about 1,200 people in their practice. But 1,200 times an average of $50 is $60,000 a month. That takes care of a lot of overhead also. So you're seeing these doctors starting to spread across the country. It's a type of hybrid, basically, for the concierge doctor. But here's some numbers that I found startling. In 2011, only 3% of doctors and doctors' practices around the United States took cash only. That went up to 4.5% in 2012, and by 2013, at the beginning of the year, it was over 6%, and all the studies show that by 2015, it'll be close to 12% of all doctors only take cash or credit cards, and then you have to get reimbursed from the insurance company. So because of the problems that we have with insurance companies and billing, and now with the government getting more and more involved, this is a trend that's happening throughout it. And it is a profitable trend. You have to work a little harder to build up the base, but after that, it's a great practice, and it's a trend that is coming. Okay, in 2011, I was asked to put together a blue ribbon advisory board for the United States Congress. And the concept was how to lower health care costs without a mandate. We were able to come up with $253 billion per year in savings. And it actually passed the House. It passed the House and Ways Committee unanimously, which is like unheard of in Congress, and it passed the House, but I think we all know that the House and the Senate don't really talk to each other, so the Senate never really took it up. And there was a problem with the report. We used all common sense, and that's not very, politically favorable nowadays. But I'll give you some of the main points of the report. And this report, by the way, is on the website. I'll show you at the end. You could look it up. It has all the studies and where all the specifics came from to get the numbers. It was actually a very interesting report. I never had anybody who saw the report who didn't say that made sense, except for the United States Senate. This is Orrin Hatch. He was one of the supporters of it in the Senate, but he wasn't strong enough to get it through to committee. One was to teach nutrition in our schools. Right now, we do have some type of health taught in our schools, but it's mostly sex education. And I'm not against sex education, but I think it's important that our kids know why an apple is healthier than a cupcake. And that's not taught in the schools. How many of you remember, this is a younger crowd than I'm used to, but how many of you remember when we had gym classes every day in school? Do you remember that? Well, if you look at the trend with childhood obesity and diabetes type 2 amongst our children, And it'll go like this on the graph. And then you look at the trend of what happened to gym classes in the United States. It goes like that, and it makes an X. I'm not saying that's the only reason that we have childhood obesity and diabetes becoming a catastrophe in our country, but it's an important point, and we stopped it, and we pay for that already because we all pay local school taxes. They just decided to take the gym classes out. Use the Natural Products Association standard for all natural products to eliminate marketplace confusion. The NPA is a large nonprofit. It's been around about 45 years. I happen to have been on the committee for product criteria and label specifications for all natural products in the United States. That was asked for by Congress. But right now, if you look on a bag of Wise potato chips, it says all natural. So it sort of confuses the public, and that's the job of the NPA, what they're attempting to do to standardize what all natural really means. Stop subsidies for certain crops. I think we all would agree that sugar is a major problem in the United States with the diabetes going so crazy. Our kids are addicted to sugar from the time they're little. If we know it's a problem, why are we giving them $2 billion a year to subsidize the price of sugar? I mean, there's no sense in that whatsoever. I also wouldn't use subsidized corn, at least for the part that's used for high fructose corn syrup, which is just another fancy name for sugar. And I wouldn't subsidize the crops that contain GMO until we know how safe that is. And I think lots of people, especially in my field, have questions on that because it tends to come out over 10 or 20 years on the safety of it, how it affects us. Here's some of those common sense things that drove the Congress crazy. That's Mitt Romney and his wife, by the way, when they were at the aquarium in Atlanta. Allow the flexible spending accounts and the medical savings accounts to be used for certain logical things. Right now, they could both be used to buy Viagra, but you can't use it to buy omega-3 fish oil. It makes no sense. If we allow it to be used for only those supplements that are already approved by the Federal Drug Administration to mitigate health risks, it's a drastic savings on our healthcare system. Allow it to be used for bare bones gym memberships. I'm not talking about the real fancy ones where it's $150 a month, but the gyms would come to terms with the bare bones membership in the $30 to $40 range. And remember, both of these accounts are our own money. This is money that we put in there. It just is able to be used before taxes instead of after taxes. So it really doesn't cost the government any money, and there's already the limits on how much you can put in. So it's actually no additional cost to the government. And we have studies that show that people who use a gym have less health problems. We also know that a lot of people who have a gym membership don't use it, but that shouldn't stop us from attempting to do that. Allow registered dietitian services to be used in their flexible spending accounts and medical savings accounts. Some of us have dietitians in our practices, but there's a lot of practices out there, and it's cash only. They can't use, you know, most insurance companies won't even accept them. And the people need the help of good registered licensed dietitians. And I think we all would agree that water is an extremely important nutrient. And a lot of people won't do it because they say they don't like the taste. And there's ways to improve the taste. But one easy thing would be to allow it to be used for water filtration devices, you know, to improve the taste. Again, just the cheap ones that are approved. I think they have to be, that's Underwriters Laboratory anyhow now to get approved for it. But if they drink more water, it would help the health of our patients. And one that I skipped is gym equipment. You know, things like treadmills, stationary bikes. Again, sometimes people buy them and don't use them, but more than half do use them, and it improves their health. Okay, insurance. I know nobody here uses insurance, but it's a major part of our practices. And there's a lot of problems with it, and the cost is extremely expensive. So just do some things that, again, just make sense. Allow the interstate sale of insurance. They estimate that would lower prices by 15% literally overnight, but it's not allowed. Go back to the plans where the patients were more financially involved, like the old 80-20 plans. Right now, when our patients come to the offices, they don't ask how much something costs. All they want to know is their copay. And it's $10 or $15 or $20. So they get to use the insurance whenever they want, sometimes for frivolous things, sometimes for things that we could hardly bill for because it's a waste of time. But if they had to sit and figure what it's going to cost them, I think they would get more involved in their health care. And then implement real tort reform, you know, to get the malpractice rates to reasonable issues. That's one of our biggest expenses for almost every practice that I know. And it's outrageous. And it's not just the cost of the insurance. It's all the extra testing that we have to do because we're worried about getting sued if we leave something out. So we need real tort reform, and that would have a major effect on the cost of health care. But these changes came up to $253 billion per year in savings, and it got the patients more involved. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, in August of 2009, said that if you follow 4 simple rules, you could prevent, eliminate, or mitigate 80% of all the major diseases. That's their claim, 80%. It was don't smoke, eat an all-natural diet with lots of fruits and vegetables, keep your weight down to a BMI below 30, and exercise 3.5 hours per week. And I personally would add drink 8 glasses of water per day. But this is the highest government body in charge of health research in the United States, pretty much the world, and they use the figure of 80%. That would be $1.6 trillion a year in savings, and the healthcare crisis would be gone, in theory. It wouldn't be part of the election cycle and a big debate if that much money was eliminated from it. So if we're going to mandate something, and I personally don't believe in mandates, I would mandate the CDC rules. No, I know you can't, but I'm just saying in theory it would work better. Okay, another area that I wanted to go over with you that is a trend that is coming is getting paid for follow-up. And it's called patient-centered medical homes, PCMH. It's not a place, it's not a revolutionary idea or a new technology. And I have the article, you should have it in your packets if you want to look it up. But it's already being done by Blue Cross Blue Shield. I know they're testing it in Kansas City, and I believe in Dallas, Fort Worth. But what it is allowing us to follow up with our patients, and we receive a small fee for doing that. Like I said, it's being tested by Blue Cross Blue Shield in Kansas City and some other markets. And our practices are paid $3 per patient per month for those simple follow-up calls. So you're taking your medicine. You know, how is your weight program doing if they're on a weight program? How do you feel? Are you doing these exercises if they had some just a normal follow-up that we would all love to do in our practices, but we don't have the time to do it because we're not paid for it, and we have to take our people away from something that we are paid for. So it's a catch-22, but this is what they found, that with this program, it lowered readmission rates by 35% in the 2011 to 2012 timeframe. and they're thinking it might be up to 50% this year. And remember, we're going to start getting penalized for these readmissions. So this is a pretty important aspect, but it shows that if we're able to get paid for following up with our patients and for giving them the type of care that we always wanted to be able to give them, we could do it, and it can have great effects on the health of our patients. Okay, now I'm going to go over some of the major diseases and how nutrition and exercise helps mitigate these diseases. And then I'll show you how we could use it in our practices in a little while. But the first one is exercise and the impact on health. We all know that things like running, doing a stationary bicycle is great to burn calories and lose weight. But what a lot of us may not be aware of is that strength training or resistance training helps manage and prevent type 2 diabetes. It's not going to make up for a poor diet or, of high calorie foods and, high processed foods, but it helps our body process insulin more efficiently and effectively. And a new study revealed that those who have more muscle mass have a much lower rate of having diabetes type 2 or being pre-diabetic. Resistance training has also been shown to play an important role in avoiding weight regain. What happens is some of our patients, or ourselves for that matter, we go on diets, and then once we're off the diet, we regain the weight back in that yo-yo effect. Well, if we have a regimen of resistance type training and exercise, what happens is over time, it raises our basal metabolism rate because we have more muscle mass, and muscle burns more calories than fat does. This helps us keep the weight off, or if we're at a plateau, helps us increase our weight loss if it's needed. Something else that's important with it is we know that testosterone levels tend to go down with age. But what studies show, as a matter of fact, it was last year through the Endocrine Society's annual meeting, that if you have more muscle mass, basically from resistance training, the loss or the lowering of your level of testosterone either slows or could be completely turned around by proper exercise. And we all know that's a problem, especially with men as we're aging. Another one, and I mentioned this already, is water. It really is the most overlooked nutrient. Our body's comprised of over 60% water. It's essential for everything that our body does to keep it in balance with energy and nutrients. All the functions that these bodily fluids, which are mostly water, do covers just about everything: digestion, absorption, circulation, creation of saliva, transportation of the nutrients, and the maintenance of our body temperature. If we don't drink enough water, what happens is all of these functions are going through, sort of like going through sludge, and it slows everything down. It makes us feel lethargic. A general recommendation is to have 1/2 your body weight in ounces of water per day. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you should have 75 ounces of water. And by drinking more water, it would hopefully substitute for the other drinks that we have, which plays havoc with our insulin levels, like the flavored coffee drinks, and the sweet juices and sweet tea and soda, which I think we know that taking sugar in like that, just wrecks our metabolism, as we have our highs and lows. And water helps even that out and maintain the efficiency of the insulin utilization. Also, it's been shown that artificially sweetened drinks alter the blood sugar level. And some of it has been tied to certain cancer risks. But by drinking water, we hopefully replace more of these artificially sweetened drinks. And it helps us. By drinking 1 or 2 cups of water before a meal, it tends to fill us up and it helps us take in less calories, so it tends to help with weight loss also. Okay, sleep and metabolism. You know, we all know that we're supposed to have approximately 8 hours of sleep per day. But it only takes one poor night of sleep to throw our metabolism out of whack. And when that happens, what really happens is when we don't get enough sleep, our body thinks it's under stress. And when our body's under stress, we go to the fight or flight mechanism that we're all born with from, you know, way back in prehistoric times. What happens is when you don't get enough sleep, especially over a period of time, your body releases cortisol. What the cortisol does is it says, okay, something's going to happen real quick. I either have to run away or fight this saber-toothed tiger. So there's certain things that I need and certain things I don't need. I don't need any digestion, so it slows down or stops the digestion. I don't have to worry about my insulin being utilized correctly, because not right now, I'll worry about it after. So it stops that. I don't need any melatonin or serotonin, so it stops the production of that. Then I'm going to need a bunch of energy real quick for this, so it releases the glucose in our cells and in the sugar, because we think we're going to need it for this energy, you know, for this big event that's happening. And that's what happens to our body. Then when this happens, it affects our sleep. And then if our sleep's affected, it affects our stress level, and it's a vicious cycle. So sleep is extremely important. If you don't get enough sleep and you're under stress, it affects your weight loss, because it affects the proper utilization of breaking down the carbohydrates. And it causes weight gain. It doesn't allow the fat burning to go on. So that's something that we have to teach our patients, but they have to understand why. If you just tell them, it's like a kid. You just, okay, yes, 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 and that's what they all tend to do with us. But if they truly understand why, and it makes sense to them, we'll get more engagement with it, and that tends to help. And avoid eating a heavy meal before bed, because then our digestive system is working overtime, which tends to keep us up. And the other thing is to try to eat all natural foods, foods that don't contain all the additives and preservatives and dyes and steroids and antibiotics, because that tends to play havoc with our metabolism and tends to not help our sleep patterns by any means. So those are the things that we have to look for. And again, at the end, I'll give you a website where you could see the clinical studies on all of these diseases. I just wanted to show you the major diseases and highlight some of the major correlation between that and food. Allergies. Food allergy, we all know, is an abnormal response that's triggered by a specific reaction in our immune system. So they think whatever food we're taking in that we happen to be allergic to is a foreign body, and it's releasing antibodies. And the amount of people that have food allergies in the United States is growing drastically, especially with like gluten. We're seeing it more and more. Any food could cause a food allergy, but they call it the Big 8 is responsible for about 90% of the allergic reactions. And those Big 8 are milk, eggs, peanuts, other nuts from trees, fish, shellfish, soy, and wheat. And wheat now, I would say, is the biggest one, although the one we hear about the most is peanuts because of you know, how it affects children. If we have our patients eating all natural, chemically pure foods, it lessens the chance of them having allergic reactions to the foods. So we have to make them aware of it if they have food allergies. We have to teach them how to read labels, and we have to be cognizant of the medicines that we prescribe and that they take over the counter, because a lot of these medicines have things in it that are safe for most people, but you know, it may contain gluten. So we have to know what's in it also if we're prescribing it, and we know the patient has a problem with this. Okay, ADHD and autism. We're seeing it now more and more. almost 10% of the students in schools now have either seen doctors for ADHD or are on the medicine for ADHD. So the calories, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids found in our foods are necessary for children's brain development. And if a child is lacking in any of these, above nutrients, it could affect their neurotransmitter production, which affects their visual and cognitive processing. So we have to know this. By consuming nutrients like zinc, magnesium, selenium, beta-carotene, vitamin A, vitamin E, and choline, it helps the body to naturally get rid of harmful toxins like mercury, arsenic, and calcium. We have to be aware of this and try to lead them towards that path in addition to, or if we're really lucky, instead of having to medicate them. If a child is deficient in any of these nutrients, it can impact the cellular growth of their gastrointestinal tract, which then affects the absorption of the nutrients that are needed, which has a negative impact, obviously, on the brain and the body. So some good sources of for glutamine, which is probably the main amino acid needed for development, is like cabbage, beets, beef, chicken. But we either need to know about this or know where to send them so the patients could learn about this. Because the parents are concerned about ADHD, and if there's a way to either correct it without medicine or at least enhance how the medicine that we use works with them and we're able to give lower doses, I think the parents would be willing to learn the extra education that's needed to do this. Okay, Alzheimer's disease is becoming pretty big throughout the world, but in the United States. And a large percentage of the people, once they reach 65, 70 years old, are starting to get some form or fashion of Alzheimer or dementia. And what we found in studies is that if they're consuming a diet rich in antioxidants, it lowers the chance of getting Alzheimer's disease. That's a pretty bold statement, and like I said, I have the studies to back this up. But these antioxidants, we're just talking about vitamin E and vitamin C, have proven to be very influential. Vitamin E is fat-soluble and found primarily in vegetables, nut oils, as well as spinach and whole grains, and vitamin C is water-soluble and found in citruses and tomatoes and spinach and red peppers. For maximum prevention, it's recommended that these vitamins be provided through our regular foods and only take the supplements as an addition to it if needed, not in replace of it. The most important nutrient for the brain is fat, because the brain is made up of fat. The problem is that what we feed ourselves mostly is unhealthy fats, like trans fats, and we wind up with an unhealthy brain. Monounsaturated fats like olive oil are naturally high in antioxidants, and when incorporated in the brain, they're less vulnerable to damage from the environment, from free radicals. And again, studies show it's been lowering the risk of having Alzheimer's or dementia. So some of the best fat for the brain is omega-3 fatty acids, which we get from cold water fish like salmon and certain fruits and vegetables. And what really counts, and the research will show, is not just omega-3. It's the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6. It's supposed to be 1 to 1. And in the United States, it averages 1 to 15. So that's the real problem that we're having. Okay, arthritis. He was talking before about pain clinics, and arthritis is one that'll send the people to the pain clinics. But people that have arthritis are at nutritional risk for several reasons. And one cause of it is that in this patient population, a lot of them will lose weight and have a general loss of vitality and strength linked to cytokine production. And in patients experience chronic inflammation, the production of these cytokines have been shown to lessen the inflammation and reduce the pain, especially in the joints. So it's a challenge to be increasing both the calories and protein intake to meet these nutritional requirements and not gain weight, because through this process, their metabolism has speeded up. Their basal metabolism rate is higher. So they have to eat more over intervals to keep the energy and the nutrients that they need without gaining weight. It's a delicate balance. But they should be having 2 to 3 servings per day of lean, all-natural proteins such as chicken breast, fish, or lean meats, and that'll help them in maintaining a healthy weight. And again, we have to be careful of the effects of the different arthritis medicines we give. One study showed that on one medicine that's a pretty high, that's prescribed a lot is methotrexate. And the patients on this, although they've had good results with it, they showed that they had a large deficiency in folic acid in this patient population. So we need to give them the folic acid through regular foods, and it increases the positive response that we get through the medication. These foods are just dark leafy green vegetables, fortified breads, and cereals and grains. If we increase the intake of antioxidants, like I talked about before, the omega-3s, selenium, and vitamin E, it decreases free radical damage to the joint linings, which tends to diminish the swelling and the pain, and that's what we're all trying to do for our patients. So if we could do it naturally, in addition with our other methods, all it does is enhance the effects of what we're doing already. Okay, asthma. It's thought that omega-3 fatty acids found naturally in the foods that I already mentioned, such as the high-fat fish like salmon, mackerel, or cod, help the body to naturally decrease inflammation. We all know that inflammation is going to bring on the asthma symptoms more and more. A recent study showed that with teenagers that had poor nutrition, they had a 80% increase in their asthma symptoms compared to somebody that was eating an all-natural, healthy diet. That's a big difference. And what we found is they're not eating enough fruits and vegetables with the vitamin C's, the vitamin E, and omega-3s. So eating an all-natural, nutritious menu helps maximize the work of our immune system and helps to naturally decrease inflammation and would make whatever asthma medicine we're giving them much more effective. Okay, cancer, the big C, that's what I think is the most fearful of any disease still in the United States. The CDC recently said, and I mentioned some of this already, that up to 80% of chronic disease, including cancer, can be prevented or mitigated by keeping our weight down to a body mass index below 30 and eating an all-natural diet with lots of fruits and vegetables. That's a pretty strong statement. And when you see the research by the different scientists, you'll see that a lot of them are shown living off of the ocean. In other words, more seafood has a drastic effect on cancer rates. You'll see that the countries that have much more seafood, and that's their main protein compared to beef or even chicken or pork, have lower cancer rates overall for every category compared to countries that live off of the, quote, Western diet. The American Institute for Cancer estimates that 30 to 50% of cancers are preventable with a healthy diet. And I made a quick list of the foods that they said we should be consuming. Lycopene found in tomatoes, ground flax seeds, chlorophyll found in the dark vegetables like spinach and green olive oils and Brussels sprouts, vitamin D12 found in fish and poultry, eggs and meat, folic acid found in the dark leafy vegetables, vitamin D found from sunlight, and vitamin C found in broccoli and citrus fruits, bell peppers, omega-3 fatty acids, which we talked about already, selenium, which is found in whole grains and legumes and nuts. All of those have a drastic effect, but that's a pretty strong statement for them to say 30 to 50% can be prevented. So we should do it. Our main goal isn't just to treat disease, it's to prevent disease. The problem is that right now we don't have the structure set up where we get paid to prevent disease, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to lead to. Okay, celiac disease, really, and more now, gluten intolerance is becoming a major problem in the United States. Although only 1% of the public has celiac disease, that I guess they're born with genetically, almost 10% of the public now is gluten intolerant. And I think most of us will see almost every restaurant now is starting to have gluten-free menus, or at least little sections of it, because it's becoming a problem. And it's an autoimmune disease. It's a negative response to gluten and wheat in the United States. So one thing that I found interesting in the studies is it showed that if the children are breastfed all the way through the term, their chances of being either gluten intolerant or having celiac disease is cut by more than 50%, which is interesting because it gives them a stronger immune system. So they have to be careful, obviously, when they're reading labels, and especially when they're having the different breads and cereals. But they're all safe grains for these people. And the starches include like corn or buckwheat, rice bran. And one thing that you'll notice is the countries where their main starch, per se, isn't wheat, and it's like rice, like Japan or China, they have much, much lower rates of celiac disease or gluten intolerance. So we have to be careful, and again, we have to be careful of the medicines we prescribe, but more importantly, the over-the-counter medicines, because a lot of them do contain gluten. Okay, Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease is different and has a different recommendation than almost any other disease. Crohn's symptoms are it's robbing the body of fluids and nutrients and a wide range of vitamins. So restoring and maintaining proper nutrition through all natural foods rich in protein and nutrients such as lean meats is extremely important. And here's some easy tips for them. They have to eat small amounts of food throughout the day to keep up their energy level because they're using it and depleting it so quickly. They have to drink a lot of water and be careful to drink the water throughout the day. And this is where it's different than most any other disease. They have to avoid high fiber foods such as bran, beans, nuts, seeds. They have to avoid fatty, greasy foods and fried foods such as sauces, butters, margarine, and heavy cream. So, and that's different than just about any other of them, because fiber is good for just about every other category. So even foods that give them gas, such as beans and spicy foods and cabbage, even broccoli and cauliflower have to be avoided, and they even have to watch the certain fruits that they drink. So for those that have Crohn's disease, it's imperative that the foods that they eat work with the medicines that they're being prescribed. Sorry. Okay, diabetes. By 2020, the CDC says that in the United States, 50% of the population will be diabetic or pre-diabetic. And 90% of that is diabetes type 2, which is called voluntary diabetes. So protein coupled with complex carbohydrates from grains, fruits, vegetables is the optimum diet for somebody who's diabetic. Fiber is particularly important because it helps keep the digestive tract in good shape. One aspect of diabetes that we have to be cognizant of is they have to also eat several meals a day throughout the day to keep up their proper insulin levels and proper sugar levels. So what we'll see with diabetes also a lot is weight gain, or the weight gain causes of diabetes. You know, it's sort of like sleep and stress, which came first. But we have to be cognizant of that and help them watch their weight, because if they are overweight and obese, it definitely increases the chances by over 200% of having diabetes type 2. So they just have to be on a healthy diet. It's a low glycemic diet. It's a diet that's high in fiber, moderately low in fat, 25 to 30% of the calories, with a focus on good fats, of course, and high in protein and complex carbohydrates. But just know that diabetes type 2 is 100% curable. So, and that's pretty rare to say about any disease, you know, today. But it's 100% curable and controllable. Okay, heart health and nutrition. It's important to incorporate 5 to 10 servings of fruit and vegetables per day that are rich in antioxidants, you know, including like raspberries, blueberries, tomatoes. Don't consume any trans fats typically found in the processed foods. If it comes in a package, basically throw it out. But you have to stay away from processed foods for all the things that they have in it, including trans fats. Consume a minimum of 25 grams of soluble fiber per day. What the fiber does is it binds to the bile acids in the bloodstream and basically eats away the bad cholesterol. So it's very good for us. And some good sources of this, again, are omega-3 fatty acids, flax seeds, walnuts, and salmon. But again, the American Heart Association says if you maintain a healthy diet, it reduces the risk of heart disease by over 40%, and that's right out of the American Heart Association. So we definitely have to work together on these things to help our patients. Okay, by the way, that's Hank Johnson. He's a congressman from our area, and he happens to have hepatitis C, and he asked our company to do a paper on it for him. But if your diet contains excess calories, you're obviously going to gain weight. But being overweight is linked to excess fat in the liver, which is called a fatty liver. If you already have hepatitis C and you get a fatty liver, it'll increase the risk of developing cirrhosis drastically. Being overweight and having a fatty liver has also shown that the medicines that we give to treat hepatitis C, like interferon and ribavirin, are less effective. So obviously we want to make what we do more effective. Research has also shown that people infected with hepatitis C have higher rates of diabetes. So we have to keep them on that same diet that we talked about for somebody who has diabetes. And they have to eat several small meals throughout the day. So again, aim for 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables per day to keep it, at least not aggravate the situation at all. And the antioxidants, again, are going to help with the immune system. Okay, multiple sclerosis. The cause remains unknown. You know, some suggest that it's genetics, it's infections, different environmental factors. Some people even suggest it's excess antibiotic use, but they don't know for sure. But what they do know is that studies show that people who have multiple sclerosis are deficient in magnesium. And the symptoms of magnesium deficiency are very similar to that of MS, such as muscle spasms, the muscle weakness, and the twitching. So if we're cognizant of that, we have to give them a diet, that gives them enough magnesium, and those are, just easy foods like pumpkin seeds, salmon, beans, halibut, and spinach. Now, something here that they found also is that wheat contains phytic acid, which binds to the magnesium and makes it unavailable to the body. So what they found is gluten intolerance is almost triple in this population of patients that have MS compared to the regular population. So we have to keep them away from gluten. They also found deficiencies of vitamin B12 are very common. And studies have shown that in areas where fish is commonly consumed, the rate of MS is drastically lower than in the United States. Okay, obesity and nutrition. Okay, we all know, I think, that obesity just became officially a disease, and in the different states we're starting to get the different things from the insurance companies, so now we could treat obesity directly and get paid for it, and spend the time that's needed, because obesity, which is defined as having a body mass index over 30, and morbidly obese is having a body mass index over 40, affects almost every major disease there is. If you're obese, your chances of having diabetes type 2 is more than double. But it also increases the risk of heart disease, strokes, arthritis, even cancer. The risk is increased if they're obese. So we just have to now counsel them and put them on the proper diets and put them on the proper exercise programs, or send them to a place that can do it to help with all these other diseases. And it's important that we do that. Again, if we could prevent disease and make our patients healthier and have another revenue stream by doing that, then we're able to spend the time and have our staff spend the time to do what's needed. Okay, last one is the Parkinson's disease. It affects more than 7 million people worldwide and over 1 million people in the United States. And a low-protein diet has been shown to enhance the actions of the drugs that we give them. So the way they recommend it is stay away from the proteins basically for breakfast and lunch when the symptoms are the most severe, and then have a normal dinner. And medication should be taken with a high carbohydrate meal. But in the initial biochemistry studies of Parkinson's disease, they noticed a decreased level of glutathione, which is the brain's primary antioxidant. So we have to be aware of that and make sure that they're getting enough of it, because that's important, and it helps with the drugs that we provide, like Cinemet and Endopril, which help with the conversion of the amino acid triacine to dopamine. So these drug therapies, which are highly effective, are much more effective if we're able to keep up their level of glutathione. Okay, so another alternative, and I believe everybody would agree a wave that is coming, is what's generally called health and wellness. So the question is, how do we use health and wellness to improve our patients' health, help prevent or mitigate disease, lower readmission rates so we're not penalized, increase our patient satisfaction and our performance rates before the government gets more involved, and add a new revenue stream? The bottom line, and it's coming to this through a lot of different areas, including the government, is but we need to get paid for preventing disease and teaching healthy living, and then we'll be able to spend the time and the resources that need to be spent for it. Okay, Greenbox Foods is a nutritional wellness benefit platform. It gets the patients on all natural diets. It tracks their calorie intake, their basal metabolism, and the calories burned by exercise. The foods that it makes available to the patients are USDA all natural or organic. They have no dyes, no preservatives, no steroids or hormones. It happens to taste great, and it's the same price or less than a place like Whole Foods. And like I said, it's able to track all of it for the patients. Okay, this is a page from the website. I didn't want to take a chance on having to go onto the internet at the hotel. But this is the front page of it. And you'll see it has Discover, which explains what it is. It has the Wellness Center, which is the most important part. It has where they could get the foods. It has a blog, which a lot of patients like more and more, where they could ask questions of the health professionals that are on it. They could actually talk to other patients that are having similar problems and get answers to. And people nowadays are getting more and more involved with that. And our job is to get them engaged if we want them to use what we're trying to tell them to use. Okay, this is the Wellness Center. And it has a lot of different parts to it, but you'll see it has challenges, it has nutrition, it has fitness, it has the community, so they could see what other people are doing that have the same problem, if it's weight loss, if they have diabetes type 2 and they just want different recipes, you know, to try to stay on the different menus. It has tools to track everything from what the different exercises involve, the breakdown of all the foods. I think there's 41,000 different foods on the list of their protein content and their carbohydrate content, the vitamins, minerals, etc. So it does pretty good with that. It has all the different nutrition plans for just about every major disease. It walks them through that. It has all the different recipes, both in videos and in writing, and then it has all the different exercises. It'll put them on an exercise plan. It'll let them use an exercise plan. It'll customize it, and there's, I think, 900 videos attached to it. You'll also see the knowledge section on the top. That's where it has all the different reports that I talked about, so you could look and see if you want to see the specific studies, you know, that were done by the CDC or the American Heart Association, etc. It has the background and the details on all the different studies. And you'll see here multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, but it lists them all, including other things like why it's important to pack a healthy lunch and do small meals throughout the day help, and, you know, bicycle riding and all the different things. And I think even though we may have some older patients, they're getting more and more involved with blogs and the computer. So when I mentioned before that we have different nutrition plans, it has it for just about every major disease. And this was just to give you a list: COPD, IBS, chronic kidney disease, weight loss, hormonal balance, active plan, detox plan, and it has 30, 40 different types besides just living a healthy lifestyle. So what Greenbox does is, like I said, it has plans for all the major diseases, but what it really does, it helps plan and track the menus and the recipes with videos. It helps plan and track and develop detailed fitness programs. It actually educates the patients on how proper nutrition and exercise affects every major disease, but more importantly, whichever one they're dealing with. And if we could truly educate them where they understand it, then they become more engaged. It gives them free access to registered licensed dietitians and fitness experts, both through the internet, social media, and the phone. It challenges the people to get them more engaged. I happen to be in charge of Paula Plus in the United States. Do you all remember the presidential challenge when you were kids in school? You had it, and we had to do all the different exercises. I know you do. Anyhow, it was a big deal when we were kids, and they don't have it now in the schools because they don't have gym classes in the schools. Now they call it PALA Plus, which is the Presidential Active Lifestyle Award, and the plus stands for nutrition. But we have challenges like that where we could even get their kids involved, and parents will tend to do more things for themselves if they feel like it's helping their children and their children get an award. But we have challenges like that because our goal is to get the patients motivated and engaged to lead a healthy lifestyle to prevent disease or at least mitigate disease. But let me ask all of you a question. Is there any way that eating healthy, losing weight if needed, lowering salt intake and sugar intake and exercise, that could somehow not help our patients? The only company that can be used by individual doctors, patients, and supplies the food is Greenbox Foods. And although I've been in the business for almost 30 years, we just formed Greenbox Foods a couple years ago when we saw what was coming with Obamacare and everything else. And we've only done it so far with about 300 or 400 doctor practices, mostly through Vital Healthcare Group, but the results have been excellent. So here's the real question. How do you use healthy living or Greenbox Foods and health and wellness to help your patients and make a profit? Because we have to pay for our time or we're not going to do it. We can't do it. We have too many other mandates. So what the doctors that we have do is they charge $10 per visit for every patient. They just add it to the copay. And if the patient asks why, they tell them. With all the new mandates and everything that's going on with the government, it's very important for us that you lead a healthy lifestyle. So we're putting you on and giving you access to a platform that will supply all this for you. And I know it's only $10, but they must be invested. If you don't get them to spend any money, it lowers the participation rate. $10 is small enough. Plus, we have to make a profit also as in our practice. So what do you charge? Your charge, it depends on your patient load, but between $250 and $750 a month. So if you have between 0 and 250 patients, you charge $250. It's about $1 per patient, but assuming you have 250 patients and you got $10 and you're paying $250, you have the spread for your practice and your staff. And each patient would receive a sheet explaining all the benefits of Greenbox Foods and how to log on to the password protected site. Greenbox Foods takes care of everything else. It does a health assessment with everybody. It walks them through it. It'll give them diets, recipes, menus, depending on what they need and what their needs are. It'll give them exercise programs, because I don't think there's anybody who doesn't need some type of exercise program, even if it's simple as walking and tracking it for them. It gives them free access to health professionals like registered dietitians, naturopathic doctors, and fitness experts. It engages and motivates them to get involved. And we do that through education and communication. Now, depending on patient usage and food use, you are given an additional revenue stream every month that we give you for medical records digitalization. So what are the results? Patients achieve better health. They're happy with the results. It actually gives you an edge over your competition, those that aren't doing it, and they're just doing everything the, quote, old-fashioned way. You get more referrals. You're ahead of the curve on future mandates. And it's a new revenue stream, and our doctors after 6 months are averaging approximately an extra $6,000. It's not going to make anybody a millionaire, but it helps make up for some of the chipping away that the insurance companies have been doing. Now I'm open for questions. Plus, I'll be here for the next few days, so if anybody wants to talk to me, my email is Keith, K-E-I-T-H, .Kantor, K-A-N-T-O-R, @greenboxfoods.com. And my cell number is 678-313-2888. 2956. Like I said, I'll be here for the next few days. If anybody has questions or needs me to walk them through the password-protected site or anything like that, I'd be happy to help. Thank you very much. I'm here for questions if anybody has them.